Okay, today we're going to deal with lesson 4, which has to do with layers and a little bit of typography, a little bit of other fun things like layer effects and adjustment layers, excuse me, and other things. Now I'm not going to cover everything in this chapter because if I did, it would probably take at least an hour, which you can probably get it done in an hour if you just go through the book. So I'm going to show you a few of the basic things that you want to know about layers here right now. So in Photoshop CC, I have it opened up. I'm going to go to File, Open, and it should pull up my Finder dialog box. And I'm going to open, let's see, two files from the beginning. I'm open 04 Start PSD, and I'm going to open the Beach PSD. And now to select both of those, I can hit Command on a Mac or Control. I can Control click or Command click, and it'll select both files. I'll hit Open, and it'll actually open these in two separate tabs. So now I have my Start file and my Beach file here. Now the Start file, if you notice over here on the right-hand side of your screen, there's the layer panel, and right now all we see is the pineapple, which is right here. I can turn that on and off. Above that, though, there's three other layers that are actually hidden right now because we don't have the little eyeballs on them. So I'm going to go ahead and click the flower on, the Hawaii on, and the postage on, and now I have more elements to my design. And what I can do with layers is, I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but you can rearrange and organize layers any way you'd like. So it's really simple to do. All you have to do is click on a layer. So I'm going to move the Hawaii. Actually, I'm going to move the flower layer to below the pineapple layer real quick, just like that. And as you can see on your composition now, the flower is below the pineapple. This works just like sheets of paper would. If you had a stack of sheet of paper, that's what layers are. They're stacks of paper essentially, and you can move and shuffle the papers however you'd like. So I'm gonna move the flower back on top of the pineapple here, and I'm gonna move the postage to go below the flower. And just like that, it's hidden below the flower. So now when I move it around, it will always be below that flower. And that's how layers operate. It's really kind of fancy and fun, really simple stuff to do. So I'll move that back to where it was above the flower, and we'll start to explore other options. So the first thing the book has you do is move this beach picture over to this composition. There's a few ways to do that. The book has you go to Window, Arrange, and then to Up Vertical, so we can see both open compositions at the same time. And now all we do is, using our Move tool, click on the Beach PSD layer, click on the picture, click and drag that over and drop it onto our composition over here, and now we have this picture that was essentially copied over here to this composition. That's one way of doing it. I'm going to Command Z, Option Command Z out of there. I'll show you another way to do it. So I'm going to go back to my normal workspace, consolidate Alt to Tabs. Another way to do it is just open this tab up, click, drag it to that tab, and drop it. It's kind of saving you a step. You don't have to go up here to your Window Arrange. As long as you can work within these tabs and know how to drag and drop to the tab, it's really simple. So I'll do it one more time just to show you how I did that. I'm going to go to my Beach PSD layer or composition, click on it with the Move tool, drag it over to this layer, wait till it opens up, and then drag it and drop it onto that composition. So now I have all the elements. We'll add one more element a little bit later in the book, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. In the book they do it a little bit later, but I'm just going to do it now as I'm thinking about it. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and then I'm going to add something. So what they have you add later on in the book is this flower2.pst, and all I need to do to add this to this composition is open up my Finder or the folder outside of Photoshop, or inside Photoshop works too. So I can either go to File, Open. Actually, in this instance, I want to open my Finder, and so this is where I can go and look at all my different lesson folders. I can just drag and drop this onto my composition, and there it is. Again, really simple to do. And now my layers are organized as such. And I can move these around however I'd like to. Make things in front of things, make things behind things, etc., etc. So another thing that the book has you do is change the opacity of a layer. So, maybe I want this flower. In the book, I think they're going to have you change the opacity of the postage stamp because this is kind of dark. So I'll go to my postage here. I'll make sure I select it in my layer. I'll go to the opacity slider, which is up here under this mode here. This mode is the opacity, and right now it's at 100%. That means you can't see through it. So as I move the slider to the left and I go down to 50% opacity, now it's like 50% essentially clear, or we can start to see through it. It's not opaque anymore. It starts to have some translucency. So 100% opacity is 100% opaque. We can't see through it. And as we move it to the left or down to 0, it gets more transparent or translucent. So it means you can kind of see through it essentially. The book has you move that to opacity of 25%. Or you can, if you don't want to mess with the slider because you can't quite land in 25%, you can always just enter a number there, hit return, and it'll go to 25%. So now our postage stamp is at 25% opacity. We can sort of see what's behind it in our layer structure. We can see the pineapple, we can see the flower, etc. So now the book talks about blending modes. So to do that, we want to duplicate the layer, and we go to our, in the book they're having you do this to the pineapple. I'm going to go to pineapple, right click. Oh, excuse me. I have a little bit of a cold today. We're going to right click that, and we want to duplicate the layer. So right click, duplicate layer, and then we'll call it pineapple copy. Okay, it's right above, right? It's right above. So now there's 2 copies. There's another way to do this too. I'm going to show you that way. I'm going to Command Z out of that, so I got rid of that action. I undid that action. Another way to duplicate this layer is to click on the pineapple layer and drag that down to the bottom here to this little window icon. It's actually the create new layer icon, and it creates a pineapple copy. So now there's 2 copies of my pineapple, right? If I turn off the one above it, it doesn't matter. You can't really see it because it's a copy. So I clicked on that, and this is called the pineapple copy layer. And with this layer selected, we want to choose overlay from the blending modes in the menu layers panel. And that's this panel here. This is the blending modes. And we want to choose overlay, which is down here in the 3rd column down, or the 4th one down. Overlay. And what this does, it takes this pineapple and makes it more vibrant and colorful with deeper shadows and brighter highlights. And now we'll select the postage layer and choose multiply from the blending modes menu. So we'll go to postage layer and choose multiply. And it also made it a little stronger. At this point, you probably want to save your work. It's always a good idea to save your work along the way. So, if you get halfway through or even a quarter way through your lesson and your computer crashes, you've lost all the work you've done to that point. Now, if you are, excuse me again, if you are working on something for a long time, say you're working on something for an hour, a personal project, or a project for this class, and your computer crashes, then you've lost an hour's worth of work, which is a hassle to go back and redo. Also, you might forget how you did something, or no matter what, you want to always save your images or save your composition. So to do that, you go up to File, Save, and then we'll save this, all the changes we made to it. If I want to save it as something else, I can File, Save As, but also Command S or Control S on your keyboard will save it too. So anytime I've made a change, get in the habit of saving as many times as possible. I've each class, normal class period or normal class that I've taught this, there's always someone who loses a lot of work they did because they forgot to save it along the way. So make sure you're saving this along the way. Now, the book has your resize and rotate layers, and they're going to do that to the beach image. So let's find that beach image over here. That's layer 1. We can rename it if we just click on the layer. Click on the name of the layer. I'll call this beach image. I guess the beach image. You can see a beach in the background there. So beach image is good. And now I want to move this around. And they have you move it to the top of the pineapple. but below the red flower and below the postage stamp. So to do that, we'll move it below the postage and the flower. That's kind of where they have it. Actually, don't have that layer yet in the book, but now they want you to resize this. To do that, you hit Command or Control T to transform. Another way to do that is to go to Edit, Transform, or Free Transform here. And that will let you move this around, rotate it, and resize it. So I'm going to rotate it like so, and resize it to about there. That's what the book looks like that in the book. And put it right about, you know, somewhere in this area, like that. And then hit the check mark up at top or press return, and it will save that change you've made. So I'm going to move this postage up just a little bit like it is in the book. Again, File, Save, Command S, Control S to save it. Now, if our computer crashes, it's saved that work we just did. You know, other things in the book, you'll be able to create a filter using use a filter to create artwork. You're going to add some text, and I'll show you where the text tool is over here. In your tool box or your tool panel, about 3/4 of the way down is the horizontal type tool. You can go ahead and click on that, and this is your type tool that you're going to use to create type. Now, when you have this tool open, you probably want to have your character panel open, and that's under your window, and you go down to character, and this is your character panel, and this gives you all your different options for your typeface, you know, all the different types of typeface you can use. It gives you the different styles, bold and regular, the size of the point, so 12 point, 20 point, 60 point, 72 point. You can even add your own points if you want 144 point. You can do that. Let's do 60 for now. And all these other options, and we'll get into some of this stuff later and in Graphic Design 1, what all of this stuff means. But you also choose the color for your type, and I think in this book they're having you do this sort of islandy green color. I can also pick a color for my composition if I want. So if I want to say to use this green in the pineapple here, I can go down here and pick that green up. I don't really like that green, so I'll use a different green. Let's pick that green, that looks good. And then the book has you choose 36 points. It has you choose a tracking of 250, and the tracking is here, and that's the spacing between letters. So we're going to go up to 250. We'll just enter that there. 36 point font, and we'll change this to 36. And it also has you do, let's see, full bold, some other stuff. And I'll let you read through that. And then you just use this to type as you normally would in another document. So I think what they type is Island Paradise. Now this doesn't look like it does in your book because I don't have the same typeface chosen. But I can go back, I can highlight this and go find that typeface. I think they're using Birch Standard, so I'll go find the Birch Standard real quick. BIRCH, Standard Regular. So that's the one they use in the book. It looks more like what it is in the book. And then once you get done with all the changes you want to make to it, just press return. And now, as you can see, the typeface, or your type layer, it's actually created a new layer over here. So just like at any other time I create a layer, it ends up in my layer panel, and I can move it around to be below things. I can put it below the pineapple if I want to. I don't want it below. I want it above the pineapple. But I'm going to move it below the Hawaii down here. So that's how you create a type layer in Photoshop. It's also going to have you, book's going to have you make apply a gradient to a layer, apply a layer style, some other things, apply an adjustment layer, update layer effects, add a border, and flatten and save your file. But I got you to this point, and actually one more thing I want to show you is what's called a clipping mask. So I'm going to take this Flower 2 image, and I'm going to actually move this below my Island Paradise, right there, and I'm going to add this effect, and it's going to be a clipping mask. I'm going to change the color of this flower by using a hue saturation layer. So to do that, I'm going to go down here to this icon and go to hue saturation. And now I can change the color of you see how it changes the color of everything? Well, we're going to fix that in a second, but I want to change the color of this to, in the book they say plus 43, so we'll just do what the book says, plus 43 and plus 19. But if you're working creatively, you might just play with these sliders to see exactly what you want the colors to be. But like I said, it's applying it to the whole image. You see how the pineapple's changing color and tint, and the flowers, everything below this hue and saturation layer is changing. So what I want to do is go, the book again says plus 19, so I'll leave it right there. The lightness is the same. And we can dock this or close that out. So now you see it's changed the pineapple and everything below this. If I move this to the top, it would change the hue and saturation of the whole thing. You see how the flower here changed to yellow and this picture changed. So I'm going to move this just to above the flower. And then what I want to do is right click or control click, command click. I want to control click, I'm sorry, on a PC. And, or let's see, right click on a Windows. And I want to say, let's see, where is create clipping mask. Now the clipping mask will only affect, in effect, ties this hue saturation layer just to the layer below it. As you can see, the pineapple's back to normal, but this hue saturation layer is only affecting what's below it, which is this flower. And that's called a clipping mask. And clipping masks are amazing tools in Photoshop. Get to know it really well. So you can release the clipping mask or create the clipping mask. And as you see, when I create that clipping mask, this little arrow pops up in my layer, telling me that it's sort of linking it with this flower below. So now these two are linked together. And I think that's the last thing I'm going to show you. I'll let you kind of discover the rest of the things the book has you do. But I want to keep this kind of short for you so you can go ahead and just work on the lesson 4 on your own. Thanks again.